recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios Brisbane on 102.1 FM.
And broadcast across Australia on the Community Radio Network.
You're listening to Z Games.
With 10 years experience and over 500 episodes,
Z Games brings you the best in gaming news, reviews, community and culture.
Want to reach out? Message us on Facebook at ZEDGamesAU.
Hello, you're listening to Z Games. You are just tuning in there to a sound from Star Wars, The Imperial March, Darth Vader's theme, of course, by John Williams. My name is Ezie, and you're hanging out in studio with...
Tobi!
Yeah, it's the two of us today. We've got a pretty awesome episode of Z Games where we talk about things such as video games, predominantly, specifically video games, actually. But it's extra special in that we are sort of talking a bit about film as well.
Ooh.
Video games inspired by films, or films inspired by video games, however you'd like to look at it. As well as, we're chatting about mainly Star Wars. Because there's a lot of games with Star Wars.
When our friend Ezie here told me about this, I realised I hadn't actually watched the last one. I hadn't actually sat down and watched Star Wars Infinity number 3 plus... No, it was number 9. I hadn't actually sat down and watched it, and I was like, oh, okay, let's do this. And halfway through it, I messaged my cousin and I said, this is a movie?
Yeah.
I said... Take it about as seriously as, what was it? I sent Ezie this message. Take it about as seriously as you would the, oh God, what are they called? Fast and the Furious expansion movies. And I went, okay.
Yeah, don't treat them too seriously and you have a good time. Treat them like the Fast and the Furious of the Star Wars movies. That's what I got here.
Yeah. And you know what? Once I did that, much easier.
Yeah.
Mandalorian, on the other hand.
Yeah, well, I sort of like this interesting inspired episode actually because I got a new job recently. Yay! I can hear everyone clapping wherever you are. And employment. It seemed important to have some knowledge to do with Star Wars. So I thought, well, you know what? I've only ever watched 3 of the films.
Which, sorry?
Episode 1, 2, and 3. Phantom Menace, and then, the other 2 that I can't remember. So I thought, I should probably take it upon myself to actually learn more about the series and, watch the originals and so on and so on. And so I did. So I literally watched, I think it was 13 films in 2 weeks.
But, yeah.
And then I went, video games? How does this relate to video games? Because that's all I care about. And here we are. Now we have an episode where we're going to talk about it.
Then we went and played the games, and by golly gosh.
Yeah, and now I'm tired and I'm Star Wars'd out. So let's have this massive recap of all the endeavours that we've been through with Star Wars for tonight. It's going to be a bit of a wild ride.
But
first of all, what are we doing, Toby?
I think we might be listening to some news.
You're very correct. It's almost like you've been on the show before. All right, let's do it.
Tencent introduces facial recognition to catch kids staying up late to game. China's tech behemoth Tencent has recently announced it would begin using facial recognition to catch kids staying up late to play video games. This is to better enforce the law passed by China in 2019 that bans minors from playing video games between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. The law intends to prevent gaming addiction and requires Chinese gaming companies to implement real name verification systems as well as limits to how long children can play and how much they can spend. Many have been able to bypass this security, so Tencent hopes these new security measures will be stronger. This system currently only operates in China, and it is unlikely it will spread outside anytime soon. The Witcher universe collides. A trailer recently dropped for the second season of Netflix's The Witcher, with it set to release in December 17th this year. The show takes inspiration directly from the books rather than the game, but the two are strongly linked regardless, especially as it dipped into the game's fanbase for the foundation of its incredible popularity. Alongside this trailer, CD Projekt Red announced that The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition, which is set to release later this year, will include free DLC based on the Netflix series. This upgrade is available to anyone who purchased the original game, whether you'll be playing on a new console or not, so you're already set. Retro games continue to smash price records at auction. Earlier this week, an incredibly rare copy of The Legend of Zelda, still factory sealed, was sold for a record-breaking price of $870,000. The sale occurred on the online platform Heritage Auctions, which also hosted the previous record-breaking sale of Super Mario Bros. At $660,000. This version of The Legend of Zelda features barely noticeable differences from the original, but the chance to own a unique piece of the franchise's history makes it a highly sought-after collector's piece. The Legend of Zelda didn't get to hold onto the record very long, as it was knocked off the top spot only 3 days later by a copy of Super Mario 64, which sold for over $1.5 million US. Maybe this seems like an outrageous amount to spend on video games, but it's easy to understand the desire to own a piece of gaming history. Valerie McLecky, a video game specialist for Heritage Auctions, which handled the sale, said it seems impossible to overstate the importance of this title, not only to the history of Mario and Nintendo, but to video games as a whole. Prices for historical games like this have skyrocketed in the past years, and there's no way of knowing where the record might land next. And that's all this week in gaming news.
Thank you so much, Maylee, for the week in gaming news. Toby, do you have $870,000 just lying around by any chance?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, well, if you had a copy of that Legend of Zelda, you could make some bank. Holy, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I must admit, after seeing that $1.5 million for the Super Mario 64, I went into my drawer to start looking at what games I had still.
Yeah.
finding some of those old ones like Abe's Odyssey and GTA and Magic the Gathering.
GTA, the classic, you know?
The original.
Yeah, just...
top down.
Sealed.
If only. I actually played my games. Come on.
Yeah.
Not
you
to
didn't
put
just
down those
decoratively
people
look
out,
at them. Actually, I was... Because I like to sort of rearrange my desk and stuff at home sometimes, and like where I play video games. And like, I'll put some of my figurines and whatever away, and then I'll rotate them, put new ones out or whatever, depending on my mood. Anyway, I'm sort of like, I'm really pumped for Diablo 2 Resurrected to come out. And I got all my Diablo figurines, and I found my original Diablo CD-ROM.
Yep.
And I was like, this is so nostalgic. I remember playing this on my like ridiculous PC back in like the 90s. And then I was like, I wonder how much this costs. And if you actually get like the original Diablo with the full case and everything, which I don't have anymore, I only have the CD-ROM and the CD case. But if you came with like the full like cardboard carton packet, it's like $500+ you can sell on eBay. I was like, damn, I could have. I mean, I wouldn't, but I could, and then I'd have bragging rights. I'd people come over and be like, "See, that's like $500 on eBay."
Yeah, I just threw out a whole heap of box sets from the original WoW. So thanks for that.
Yeah. Well, actually, at least the bragging rights for this guy is just like, you see that copy of The Legend of Zelda? Yeah, $870,000. No biggie.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this facial recognition catching kids playing games late? In China, of course, in case anyone's tuning in, they're like, what?
What? Not here.
Maybe here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, actually, part of the thing is it's not coming out in Australia. It's exclusively for Huawei. No, I mean for Chinese things. Honestly, I'm of two minds. I'm a bit of a cyborg guy. If somebody said, "Hey, here's a chip and it will help and it will log you in and play games and track your things," I'd be like, "Put me down." I know my wife wouldn't agree with that one, but I'm good with this. So while, it is a complete invasion of privacy, and the only place you could get away with it is in China. So,
yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, I think as a concept, I like the idea of some kind of form of monitoring in order to protect youth or young people gaming, especially, and ban minors from playing video games between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. There is also, you could just turn off the internet, hey?
Well, Microsoft has just released an app for your phone that does that for your Xbox and your PC. It regulates screen time and it regulates how much money they spend, and they can kids can ask you and all this kind of jazz. So while Well, there is these options out there. You just have to do more than, install an app on your phone.
You don't want to like scan their faces and then like record them like staying up past 10.
No, I don't. Okay, I would like to put this down on record. I don't particularly want to record children in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, that's a very Chinese government does. Tencent does. Anyway, that's an interesting week in gaming news, I must say. You're listening to Z Games. My name is Ezie. I'm hanging out in studio with
Toby.
I
gotta stop doing that. I gotta find something else to say now.
Like
wiggle woggle.
I think there's like a theme this evening going on, which is that we're talking about video games that are inspired by film or film that have inspired games. And Star Wars is a very prolific saga that
take a large focus right now.
We're going to take a microscope. No, not a microscope. A magnifying glass. Let's go with a magnifying glass. Yeah, that could be good. Yeah. So let's do that.
Okay.
What have you been playing Star Wars related?
Star Wars related. Recently, I tried Squadrons because I thought that was the game that I watched you play, and I was sadly mistaken, and I really couldn't get handle of those wonderful controls.
Yeah, well, I'm not good with like flight simulator stuff.
I normally am fine. Normally, I give myself about 20 minutes to kind of lean into the controls, figure them out, but I just felt like everything was laggy. Like you move. I guess that's what they go. If they're going for realism in the films, you watch them pull the controller to one side and then slowly pan over that way. And maybe they're just trying to go for a thing, but God, I could not get over that.
It's interesting that you said, because I the one that you were watching me stream was Battlefront 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that game.
Okay.
Not because I'm trying to think of something good about it. Like I really didn't like it at all.
Look, graphically, I really loved the bots, and I loved.
I thought you said bots. Sorry,
head out of the gun.
Yeah.
I really loved the mechanical controls that I like the characters.
Yeah.
But as soon as you got into a ship, I just got I don't get motion sick.
No, it made me super motion sick. To the point where I think we both ended up being like, anyway, bye, man. Bye.
I think we're good now.
But I wasn't like super motion sick up until I had a level where I had to be in actually in a fighter, basically. Like an X-Wing, sorry.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until then that I was sort of like, oh. But also I found the controls to be quite janky in other ways as well, which was really frustrating. So, yeah, not the greatest game. But Battlefront, not 2, the original one, is highly praised. I haven't played that one, and it seems to be like a really well-standing, well-rounded game still today.
Is that the one of the droids versus the humans?
Yeah.
All that kind of. Oh, yeah. I can get that I can get behind.
That one has stronger appeal.
Yeah.
And would be my recommendation is to play that and not Battlefront 2. But a prolific game that I really want to play, I'll review it at some point, listeners, I promise, is Fallen Order, Star Wars Fallen Order, which came out at the end of last year.
Is currently available on PlayStation through the EA Play subscription, because that's how I got it.
Yeah, it's also on Game Pass. So that means that opens up PC players and Xbox players. It's visually stunning. I haven't played it, but it's got like crazy good reviews. And you played a little bit, did you?
I've spent probably close to 2, maybe 3 hours playing around because I wanted to be well versed for your review, and
you're
got a bit ahead of
right
myself now. And I like so far I'm pretty much at the end of the main tutorial, and I've walked down a corridor and found a hidden mini boss, and I'm going, and I just keep slamming my head against it. But visually it's amazing. I'm really enjoying the progression system of how you're picking up all of the skills. The controls are a little bit twitchy for me, like a little bit too sensitive, but maybe that's just on my side. But outside of that, I'm really enjoying it.
It's also it's great composer as well. So, like the music, it's mainly a campaign single player So, and it's supposed to fit quite nicely into the Star Wars universe as well.
So far. And I kind of love the actor who, because I fell in love with him in Gotham as a Joker, and him playing the main character has just made me kind of go, ooh, I really enjoy this guy.
Well, there you go. There's some more incentive for people there. We did actually have a text in from Paul, who said his first subscription to 4ZZZ was dated 1984, and should I find a game my own age? Well, we found a Star Wars game. Your age, actually. It was Star Wars Return of the Jedi came out 1984 on Atari.
Yeah, not a bad one.
So there you go.
You just got to go and find yourself an Atari or a ROM. Not that I ever recommend doing that, or downloading a ROM hack or anything like that, so that you can play some of the older games. But when it comes down to it, go for gold. Yeah. Have fun.
Do you have have you ever played any of the older Star Wars games?
Oh, man. I started off with Pod Racer.
Oh, nice.
Who hasn't, well, I guess me saying who hasn't played that is a bit far, because I am of an older generation, but all of those people who Nintendo 64 days when Pod Racer came out, it was on the wall on in every single store, and it was one of those games you could just go walk up and you play the first level over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it just became a cult classic. That was one of mine.
Because there was the original Star Wars game that ever came out, I think, was a arcade game. And it's just called Star Wars.
Is that the one with the...
so that was like back in your day when you had you had to go into an arcade to play. Unless you were, wealthy enough to actually buy your own arcade. That was like in the early 80s. Yeah. That was, Star Wars was what it's called.
Yeah. We would go back to the days of coins before cards. Coins before cards. For
soon
those
it will be microchips and foreheads and,
Other games that I did play was one I played with LAN, on a LAN, when people would share games on LAN so that you could play games with each other. And this was back in 2008.
So long ago.
So long ago, when somebody would actually pick up their computer and go around to another person's house with a CRT monitor. But I played, Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and running around. It was on the Quake 3 engine, and also saith my cousin, who I asked what the hell was that game that we used to play that was fun, and it was literally just running around throwing your lightsaber at everybody. And swinging things, and the days of when you got together and drank energy drinks rather than sat in your own home and play it. Energy drinks.
Yeah. Gosh.
But other games that I played, the VR.
Oh, you were saying the VR to remind you if you'd forget. Yeah. I'd actually forgotten.
Back in the day, before Star Wars Squadrons got VR support, there was a little teaser for Star Wars, and it was Star Wars Trials on Tatooine, and you got to stand there with a lightsaber and protect the Millennium Falcon, and it was drool worthy back in the day where everybody jumped on. I think it was a freebie back then, and God, that was good. Really pulled you back into that Star Wars world.
Super nostalgic to watch anything on it, I'm sure, as well.
Oh yeah.
My nostalgic Star Wars game is Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds. Which was released in 2001. And it's a strategy game. So it's a real-time strategy game. And it was developed by Ensemble Studios. And I don't even know if they're still around. And LucasArts as well.
Of course.
And it's the clone... So there's also the clone campaigns. There's an expansion as well. And you could play as the Empire, or you could play as Rebellion, or you could play as... the other, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting
Empire, Rebellion, Rebels?
Yeah.
God.
No, I'm trying to remember the other ones now. But you'd also, you'd harvest things and resources and stuff to build up, and then you'd go and invade somewhere and conquer the lands and take over. That's pretty much it. But I actually didn't know much about Star Wars back then. As a kid, other than everyone else really loving it, and I don't think I knew much. But I remember the game was obviously very good because I didn't have any context of Star Wars, but I loved the game, and it was the only real-time strategy game that I still to this day have played and enjoyed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got to get you into Warcraft 2, Frozen Throne. That was my one back in the day. of that era. But
That's a conversation.
Another topic.
Yeah. We'll talk about that another time. You're listening to Z Games. My name is Ezie. I'm hanging out in the studio with Toby. Yo. You're going to change the sound, but you've just you've locked yourself into a sound.
Yeah, I have.
It's so sad.
The sadness.
So sad. What's not sad is video games and movies.
Yeah.
They're good things.
Yeah. What was that statement?
Because we're talking about video games inspired by film.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay. So we're now talking about that.
Now we're talking about that specifically. We're broadening our horizons because we were talking about Star Wars specifically before, and now we're like, let's just talk about all this in general. The first video game inspired by television, film, was Star Trek Phaser Strike, which came out in 1979. There you go.
At least according to Wikipedia.
At least according to Wikipedia.
Paul?
Yeah. And
was there one before that, Paul?
Paul, I know you're listening.
Yeah.
You can just let us know.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yep, okay, he's saying something.
He's on it.
He's on it. All right, cool. Yeah, another game actually that's also had like lots of that we talked about earlier, which was Alien.
Yeah.
Alien, the game came out in 1982.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention Alien Isolation.
And then there was Alien Isolation.
God, that was a good game.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
I recommend for people who enjoy fear.
Yeah, and I also recommend trying the VR mod for that one if you really want to.
Wow, I didn't know that exists. I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, it's a bit buggy, but
I find myself talking about this game a lot lately. Actually, the sound is actually by a Brisbane local guy. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Jeff Van Dyke. He did some work on that. It's actually Alien Isolation is actually renowned for its AI work in terms of the enemy, because it's like one of the most intuitive, intelligent video game AI. I don't know if it still stands as that today, but it's definitely like a pinnacle of AI development when it came out. Spooky game, terrifying film. I never played it. I only ever watched someone play it when I was in an Airbnb in the night, and I heard them laughing their heads off, and I went out there to see what they were playing, and they're playing this monstrosity. And I was scared, very scared. And I wasn't even playing.
On that one, and going back to the LAN parties.
Back to the LAN parties.
Alien versus Predator. The combination of the two. I used to play that with my friends back then in the LAN parties. And I used to love running around as an alien, biting at people's toes and then taking their heads off as I was crawling around on walls. It's one of the reasons why I can cope with games that make you run up and down walls and really play around with your spatial awareness, because I used to love crawling up into a back corner and waiting for somebody to walk through a door, and just dropping down onto them and ripping their throats out.
Wow.
It's so much fun.
Because there's Predator too,
and then there was Predator, which my cousin used to love playing, because you could see everybody from millions of miles away. And
that game didn't do super well, did it?
I don't think it did.
I think everyone wanted to be Predator, so it didn't.
I wanted to be Alien. Oh. But I'm a creepy person. When
did
it
you
comes
want to
down,
bust out of someone's chest?
Yes.
I don't know.
But yeah. Well,
what other films that have been inspired by games?
Lord of the Rings. Mind you, that's a book to movie to
same with The Witcher, but whatever.
Yeah, but Shadow of Mordor.
Shadow of War. There's a Gollum game coming.
And the Gollum game coming out.
We hope that's
good. And the Lord of the Rings massively multiplayer online game. God, I could just say MMO. But, I really, Mad Max, I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
After the more recent release.
Did you ever play Gremlins?
I don't think I did, but I did play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I loved that game. I had it on DOS. And Jurassic Park as well back in the day, running around trying to turn the park back on, and those weird NES graphics.
That would have probably scared me still, even as a child.
Bloop, 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 bloop. Okay, more recent than, DOS. I also played GoldenEye. Went around to a friend's place and we played GoldenEye.
Classic 007
007 game. Yep. and screen peaking evil monstrosity that it was, that everybody used to sit there and try and just watch each other and play games.
And people
remember
still
the
love that.
cardboard.
People still talk about that fondly, which is a testament that it can stand the test of time. Actually, a game that was inspired by a film that has stood the test of time.
What is that?
And renowned as the worst video game in history, apparently.
Yep.
Is E.T.
It's horrible.
Which came out on the Atari 2600 in 1982. And there was a myth, an urban legend, because the game just crashed horribly on the market. It did very poorly. So poorly, in fact, that they had truckloads of the cartridges and they didn't know what to do with them. So they actually just dumped them in the desert. Well, that was the myth, right?
Yeah.
They found that dump outside of, like, that actually exists.
Area 51.
No. That would be amazing.
That would be
But there is a full-on documentary reporting on them discovering and finding these cartridges, because people were like, nah, that's bollocks. It doesn't actually exist. But they found it. They legitimately found it. And that game was terrible.
Yeah, but at least you could. You couldn't complete it. But games like the Disney franchise that brought out things like Aladdin and what was it, Lion King, and that were notoriously difficult to finish. And I remember playing those. I remember going up to Blockbuster and borrowing them for a week and just going, how the hell do people get past these levels?
Yeah, there's some like old games that just like, when they've been like remastered and stuff, you're like, how did this is unbelievably difficult.
Yeah.
Like,
He says, looking at his Super Mario Brothers Game and Watch, going, how the hell did I get to level 8 again?
Yeah, well, actually, it's almost like I used to be. This is not related to games inspired by film, but Crash Bandicoot. I used to be really good at that as a kid, or at least I thought I was really good at it. And then I got it remastered now on PlayStation 4, and I am terrible. So there are lots of games from the past that like just they don't do well. Or I'm just like my reflexes are bad.
I think
the hitboxes have changed during the remaster. I don't know. I'll blame something other than myself because that makes more sense.
Yeah. But inspired by games, I will mention Bullet Time from The Matrix. You think about how many games have the slowdown mechanic, and Max Payne lived off that, and then it became a movie. But the whole point of using bullet time as an entire mechanic in games, it's so good, but it can be so overused. But mind you, jumping forwards into somebody and shooting them in the chest with a shotgun is always an enjoyable experience when you needing to just express your emotions at a screen after a hard day at work.
Yeah, don't punch the screen though.
No. Oh, and Tron.
Oh,
Don't forget Tron.
there's so many. We don't even have time to go through all of them. There's so many of them. Actually, I was going to mention, the Terminator.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, that's
I forgot about all
classic.
of those books.
Terminator books.
Games.
I forgot all about those books.
It's a day.
Actually, games that turned into books is Halo.
Oh yeah.
Sorry,
Well-
that's a totally other subject.
Yeah,
but
no, but
there's that too.
Yeah, no, games that can spawn an entire fandom and fan base, fan writings and lore and expansion and worlds and
It's an amazing medium. Anyway, we are going to head off. Actually, yeah, it's come to that time. I know.
Did I talk too much?
Yeah, no. Well, there's just so much
too
quality
much.
content going on in here, and we can't keep control of it. It's a wild ride.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
know,
I don't
guys,
have much else to say.
You guys are wonderful.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked anything that you heard tonight and like to hear it again, it will be on our podcast, it's a Game Server podcast.
And if you didn't like it, please tell us on our Facebook.
Yeah, if you didn't like us, tell us discreetly in a private message.
Oh,
At ZED Games AU. We post lots of memes, video gaming memes, of course, memes for everyone kind of memes. They're excellent. You should head over to the Facebook page at ZED Games AU and like the page. Also,
tell this Easy chooses all the memes, can't you?
Yes, I do. I'm the meme lord. On there, you will also see a link to our Week in Gaming News, our podcasts, as well as our in-depth reviews that we do, including maybe like sneak peeks into what happens on each episode. It's also a great way to get in contact with us if you have any suggestions or any games that you're playing. You just want to have a chat.
Yeah.
We're there.
Yeah.
Say hi.
We're around.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at my phone right now, checking if anybody's...
Yeah, neither am I. I'm not like waiting, anticipating you to message me. I'm so lonely. We are so lonely. Yeah, you can do that at ZED Games AU. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll miss you.
Amazing.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Zed Games.
If you'd like to listen to more, check out our podcast on Spotify.
Or follow us on social media at ZED Games AU.
See you next time.